So guys, we're back into this 7 to 8. I really want to get into this and find out why it's not running and doing what it should do. And then I've got to start finishing off all the other ones too. The Yamaha is still being done. There is a few bits I'm waiting to turn up so I can finish that off. And then that one will be up. And then there is the Dragon 32 I've got to get back to, as well as the Bondwells and a few other bits and pieces that are here that I need to get on top of and finish sorting out. So guys, anyway, what are we up to and what have we been doing? Well, the problem came is that I couldn't find out what was going on with this after replacing just about every of the major chips in the board. I managed to get the clock signal from the VDP processor, which is how the Spectra Video gets its Z80 clock, is through a division unit inside of the 9128s or 9129s. Now there is a difference. There is a 9128 and a 9129, and the 9118, and the difference being is that the 11s, so they are a 16k by 1 bit, and it needs 8 of them to give it the 16k RAM, whereas the 9128s and 29s, they ran 2 4-bit by 16k, which they only need 2 to get the RAM. And that's the difference between the two of them. It's how they address the RAM. They're not interchangeable, so you can't do that. And that was part of the problem I had first off. I thought it was a 9118 that it was in there until I actually checked on another chip I had, and it wasn't. It was a 9128. So that was part of the problem, but that wouldn't stop the machine booting, but it would stop any graphics. So I got 2 new 9128s in, tried both of them, nothing. I'm still not getting anything on the monitor behind me, on the Commodore monitor, and I'm not getting any audio. But there is signs of life. So on talking to Ashlyn about it, I usually use him as a bit of a sounding board from time to time, as I see him online in the evenings over here, and I just ask for a bit of information to what he thinks. And so he decided that maybe we should try communicating through a serial or parallel port to see if there's any signs of life. Hey, that's a neat idea. So we were having a look, and then he said, well, a serial port would be better. But I have a serial port, but it's boxed away with all the parts in the back room, and that's a mission to get to. So he decided, well, why don't we make a basic instruction for a ROM to go into the board. We went along and we did this ROM and put it into the board, and I will show you what we got from that. In doing this ROM, it's only a few lines of code. I took out the ROM that was in the machine because I'd gone through and checked all the traces on the back of the board, and they're all fine. I've checked all the lines from the video RAM to the VDP, and they're all fine. All the RAM are fine to the ROM, and all the address lines and data lines from the RAM and the ROM to the CPU are fine. So we knew we had some sort of communications that could be done that way. I've done this ROM and I've put it in the machine and fired it up. And what we did is we sorted out using the 8 data bits on the printer port, because these have got built-in printer ports. So the serial port would have been preferable, but we decided no, well, we'll go through the printer ports since that's what we had. And so I looked around and found a way of displaying data on the 8 printer ports. And all it took was some 470 ohm resistors and some LEDs. Wired up a harness and Bob's your uncle. Here it is. Now this is labelled from 1 or 0 to 7, which is the 8 data bits. And this is the piece that's left over from it. I just soldered resistors onto the ground leg, tied them all together, and I just bridged a wire off the end. I'll put this under the overhead in a minute. And the other ends I put to single wires, and each of those I didn't have a plug for the port, so I just tagged them on underneath the board and the earth, of course. And hey presto, there we have it. The LEDs all come on. And when that happened, Ashton said, that is cool. That shows us there is signs of life, and that the ROM and the CPU are working and is accessing the parallel port and lighting all the LEDs up. So we decided then, what can we do from here? And he wanted a serial port so we can do serial monitoring off a PC. And I said to him, I can't find that card, it's hidden away somewhere. And so he said, well, what else could we use? And I says, I don't know, what about a Pico or something, because I've got a pile of those at the moment. And I said to him, what about a Pico or something like that? And he says, no, we need something 5 volt tolerant. So we need a Raspberry Pi or an Uno or a Nano or something like that. And I said, well, I think the only Pi I've got is a Pi 4, and that's not much good to us. I do have an Uno, but that's set up as a programmer for some other ROMs that I do. And I said to him, at a pinch, we can reuse that, and then what I can do is just reset that up later on. And he says, no, we'll have a think about what we can do. And so anyway, I thought I picked up a pile of bits from up the North Island a wee while back near the beginning of the year, and I thought, I'm pretty sure there was some Unos and some Picos and that, and amongst that. So I had a hunt through, and I knew where that box was, and I could lay my hands on it. So I grabbed it, went through it, and yes, there were 2 Unos in it. So I come down, I said to them, well, I've got these 2 Unos. They're basically, they were these, which are called a Geekcrete, which is basically an Arduino Uno R3. R3 means revision 3. So I had 2 of those. The first one we put in, it said it programmed, but it was playing up, and one of the lights was on all the time. So I thought, I wonder. So I swapped it over and put the other one in, and that one worked fine. So the first piece of code we put into the Uno was for it to talk to the 728. And once we got that side of the Uno working, and we got a reply back from it, which said, hello world, which means it was talking. So we got the ROM, and unfortunately I don't have any EE problems. I've got some on order, but I only had 2 UV erasables left out of my stock that were unused. And I'd used the first one to do the ROM for the LEDs, and I thought, oh, bugger it. So I took that out, and Ashland, he does software a lot better than I do, and he did me up a code to give us a hello world message that the Spectra video will send back to the Uno. From there we can pick it up through the serial monitor on the Android software. So anyway, I burnt the ROM on the last good one I had and put it in. We fired it up and we got the hello world back. And that was it. And it was like, yes, this thing is alive. There's just something going on in it, which we don't know what it is. So anyway, we're getting down to the point now where we're going to have to change some of the software. we did change the program a little bit and tried it again, but we started getting some garbage back. Now we don't know if it's one of the address lines that might be stuck or something like that. We're not sure. We've got to carry on from there. But this is what we got. So guys, that's where we're up to. Now I will be putting on the screen bits and pieces of screenshots of the information of what we've done. And I'll just switch you over because I have the machine still wired up to the Uno. And here we have it, and here's the Uno wired up and in. And as I said, I just attached the wires. Now these are over the back here. Hang on, I'll move that out of your way so it's not in your way. So over the back here is the two blocks that I made up. The one that's on this board was the one that had these LEDs. They were I just soldered those directly to there. So I had the colour coding on here for what was which bit. So all I did, I had those nice and long so they sat up so I could see them. And I just cut the leads off, left a little bit on these in case I need to reuse them. And I just put some JTS connector blocks on there. So I did 8 for the data. I had 1 for the earth. And then we needed to redo for this. And so I got 8 data, and then I needed 1 standby pin. What I did is I took the earth off and put it on the standby, which is on pin 1 of the strobe pin, and I just put that on pin 1 of the printer port. I will go through and put all the instructions and stuff up on here, but I am looking at doing some form of a set that out of your way, some form of a diagram to put up online, so anybody who wants to try this out can do it. So with Ashland's okay, we will be putting all this up online for other people to use if they want to. But this is early stages, guys. There's a lot more work's got to go into this. We're hoping to get to a point that if we can get this working, we can make something up to go onto a cartridge and probably use something like a Pico or a Nano or something like that on it with the software to run these tests and tell you what is doing what. That is long way off, and that is pie in the sky thinking, but that is what we would like to do. Well, I would, for one. So anyway, guys, that's where we're up to. And as I said, I will just run through and show you some of this stuff for now to show you we are making progress, and hopefully there will be some more information for you soon. Alright, I will talk to you soon.